Most people who fail at budgeting are not lazy, undisciplined, or bad with money. They usually started with the wrong system at the wrong level, and they're expecting themselves to suddenly become a completely different person just because they downloaded that app on a Sunday night. I think we all have done some version of that, right? You get a burst of motivation, something triggers you. Maybe a credit card bill came in a little bit higher than expected, and now that balance is starting to keep you up at night. Maybe you opened your bank account and you thought, wait a minute, where did all of my money go? So you decide that is it. I am done. We are not living like this anymore. We are getting our financial life together, and you commit to budgeting. You download an app, you make 42 categories, or you create a beautiful color-coded spreadsheet, and you announce that nobody in the family is getting takeout again until that mortgage is paid off. For about 4 days, you are the CEO, the CFO, and a highly aggressive compliance department of your own household. Then Wednesday happens. Somebody needs money for a school field trip, or the car makes a noise that sounds expensive. You're exhausted, and there is nothing in the refrigerator that can become dinner without divine intervention, and somebody says, let's just get takeout. Suddenly the budget is ruined. The app starts sending you notifications that feel vaguely judgmental, and you decide budgeting just doesn't work for you. But budgeting did not fail because you got takeout. It failed because the system you built had no room for you to be a human being. Now, in our last episode, we talked about finding money and building better spending habits. But today we are going one level deeper. I'm going to break down 10 of the less obvious budgeting mistakes that can derail you even when you are genuinely trying to do everything right. We're not doing surface level here. We're not doing the usual stop buying coffee at Starbucks list. I'm not going to tell you that your entire financial future hinges on whether or not you get a latte in the morning. We're talking about the mistakes that quietly kill a budget from the inside. The ones that nobody warned you about until you are standing over the remains of yet another abandoned spreadsheet, wondering what the heck happened. I'm Tami Kayata. I'm a certified financial planner professional, and I spent 15 years helping more than 6,000 people transform their financial lives at a Fortune 100 company. I saw people earning regular incomes quietly become millionaires, and in some cases, multimillionaires all the time. I also saw people earning hundreds of thousands of dollars each year who still felt as though they could never get ahead. Now that I'm out on my own, I can talk openly about what I saw, what actually worked, and what the financial industry often leaves out. No jargon, no watered down advice, no false promises, and no sponsor telling me what I can and cannot say. This is Off the Record, where ordinary people build extraordinary wealth. Let's get into it. All right, budgeting mistake number 1. You're managing the numbers without looking at the person managing the numbers. Now, this is the mistake underneath almost every other mistake on this list. Most budgeting advice treats you like a spreadsheet. Money comes in, money goes out. Make the second number smaller than the first number. Problem solved, right? Except you are not a spreadsheet. A spreadsheet has never had a terrible day and decided that a new pair of shoes might turn things around. It has never felt guilty because its children don't have what their friends have. It's never walked into Target for toothpaste and then come out $186 later with seasonal hand towels, a candle, and a bunch of snacks that nobody asked for. People don't make financial decisions using math alone. We bring our emotions, our childhoods, our fears, our identities, and years of beliefs into every financial decision. If you grew up in a house where money was scarce, your brain may have learned that money disappears, so you'd better enjoy it while it's here. So you learned spend, 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 and worry about it later. If money was never discussed, you may have learned that it's confusing, private, or scary. If gifts were how love was expressed in your family, saying no to something your child wants may feel less like responsible parenting and more like withholding love. If wealthy people were always described as greedy, dishonest, or snobby, part of you may resist building wealth because you don't want to become the kind of person that you were taught to dislike. And if you never saw people who looked like you, who came from your town or your background, who build wealth in their own lives, you may have learned not to even try, because wealth isn't for people like you. Now, none of those beliefs appear as a line item in your budget, but they're sitting in on every meeting, voting on every decision, and those beliefs are directly responsible for why you are where you are right now. That's what makes limiting beliefs so tricky. Most of them were absorbed years ago, often when we were children. Nobody sat us down with a PowerPoint presentation titled, "Here are the money rules you will follow for the rest of your life." No, instead we watched. We listened, we noticed what caused tension, what got praised, what got criticized, and what nobody was allowed to talk about. Your brain turned those experiences into rules because that's what brains do. They try to make the world predictable. Then those rules got pushed into the background where they continue operating like old software that you forgot you installed. Those beliefs become your habits, and they define what actions you take and do not take, and what normal means for you. So you can have a beautiful budget sitting in front of you saying, save $200, while the old rule in the background says, people like us never get ahead anyway. What's the point of saving $200? Go ahead, enjoy a night out. We'll deal with it later. Guess which one has had more years of practice in your life? This doesn't mean you have to analyze every purchase until buying toothpaste becomes a journey into your childhood. It means you have to become curious about the patterns that keep repeating. Now, here's a simple place to start. Finish these sentences without trying to give a responsible answer. Your first initial answer. Money is, people who have a lot of money are, people who save instead of spend are, I will never be good with money because, if I became truly wealthy, my family or friends would. Now pay attention to what comes out first. If your immediate answer is money is stressful, or people with money got lucky, or I always mess this up, don't judge it, but don't ignore it either. That belief is influencing your choices whether you can see it or not. You can't build a lasting external system like a healthy budgeting system or a cash management system or an investing system, while unhealthy internal beliefs keep quietly punching holes in your boat. If you want help finding out what beliefs you have, I have a free money belief audit tool linked in the description. It will walk you through 5 subconscious beliefs that may be costing you money and help you begin to change them. Check it out. Budgeting mistake number 2. You jump straight into the most detailed budget possible. This usually starts with good intentions. You decide you are finally going to take this seriously, so you build the financial equivalent of an airport control tower. Every dollar has a gate assignment. Every transaction is tracked. There are separate categories for groceries, household supplies, pet food, pet medical care, children's activities, birthday gifts, school expenses, clothing, home maintenance, car maintenance, subscriptions, on and on and on. Okay? By day 3, you're trying to decide whether paper towels belong under groceries or household expenses, and you're wondering why financial freedom feels so much like an unpaid job. Full dollar budgeting can be an excellent system, but it's often a terrible starting point. Imagine that you have not exercised in 5 years and your first workout is a marathon. At mile 2, when your legs stop cooperating, you would not conclude that your body is incapable of movement. You would conclude that perhaps we skipped a few important steps. Budgeting works the same way. A highly detailed system requires awareness, repetition, confidence, and a tolerance for looking at your numbers without immediately wanting to close the laptop. Those are skills. You can build them, but you don't have to build all of them on the first day. This is why I created the brain-based budgeting system, a simple system designed to work with your brain wherever it is at and help you develop a budgeting habit that you actually stick with. You start with your goals. Before you create categories, ask what you want your money to make possible for you. Do you want to stop worrying every time the car makes a noise? Or take your family on a vacation without bringing the credit card bill home as your biggest souvenir? Retire while your knees still work, or change careers at some point. Maybe just sleep throughout the night without mentally moving money between accounts at 2 a.m. Next, practice awareness and mindful spending. Look at what you're spending. Pause before purchases and ask yourself, does this purchase align with the goals I have for myself? If it does, do it. If not, don't. That's it. You are mindfully choosing how you spend each dollar to make sure it aligns with your best life now and in the future. That will naturally shift your spending. After mastering this, a funny thing tends to happen in your brain. You start to wonder, where am I leaking money? How much more could I shift towards my goals if I dug a little bit deeper? That's when we begin broad-based budgeting, like the 50-30-20 method. Then use a few, just 3, broad categories like needs, wants, and future use savings. All you're doing is reviewing your statements and dropping every single transaction, every charge into one of those 3 categories. Total them up and see how close you align to that 50-30-20 breakdown. Or another breakdown if that works best for you. After doing that for a while, your brain will start to say, I get this. I'm doing well. I wonder how much better I would be doing if I knew even more about what categories are my biggest spending drains. That's when you know your brain is ready to begin full dollar-based budgeting system, which has dozens of subcategories within your necessary and discretionary spending. And it uses target budgets to ensure you are truly budgeting your way to financial freedom based on your life and your goals. There's no prize for having the most complicated budget. Your budget only needs enough detail to help you see what is happening and decide what to do next. If 47 categories make you avoid it, those categories are not making your system more accurate. They are making it disappear. Budgeting mistake number 3. Your budgeting tool only looks backwards. A lot of budgeting apps are very good at gathering your transactions and your income and telling you where your money went. They give you lots of pretty charts and graphs. That's useful information, don't get me wrong, but it's not the same thing as budgeting. Budgeting is not what you spent. Budgeting is what you should spend. If I get into my car and I stare only in the rearview mirror, I can give you an extremely accurate description of every turn that I have already made. But I couldn't achieve my goal of getting to the grocery store. Tracking tells you what you spent $1,200 on groceries last month. Budgeting asks, is our monthly spending on track for our annual budget? What do we want to spend on groceries this upcoming month? And what would we have to change to make that realistic? Tracking tells you that holiday spending was $2,400. Budgeting says if we want $2,400 available next December, we need to put aside $200 a month. Are we currently doing that? If not, we either need to find that money somewhere in our budget by trimming spending somewhere else, or we need to reconsider that $2,400 total price tag. Tracking records a decision after it happened. Budgeting helps you make the decision before it happens. Real budgeting helps direct exactly what you need to do in order to move closer to your financial dream life and lead you toward lasting, meaningful change. Now, sometimes the plan is the problem. If you plan $600 for groceries every month and spend $900 because you have 4 kids, food prices have gone up, and apparently berries now require a small business loan to get into your house every month or week, the answer may not be try harder. Your target may be imaginary, which is why we need 2 target budgets, an annualized target budget and a short-term target budget to direct how we plan on improving our spending over the next 4 weeks. A useful budget is not a report card, it's feedback. The difference between planned and actual is information you use to make the next plan better. All right, budgeting mistake number 4. You choose a tool for all of the bells and whistles instead of whether or not you're going to actually use it. People ask me all the time, what's the best budgeting app or the best budgeting tool? And my answer is annoyingly simple. It's the one that you're going to consistently open, understand, and use. The fanciest system in the world is worthless if using it feels like you're filing your taxes every single Thursday. Some people love apps. They want automatic transaction imports, graphs, alerts, and a dashboard that turns that green when everything's going well. But other people link an account, see 900 transactions roll in, and immediately need to lie down. Some people love spreadsheets because they want control over every number. Other people see a spreadsheet and feel as though they have accidentally arrived at work. The system has to fit the person, not the fantasy version of the person who wakes up at 5 a.m., drinks green juice, and joyfully reconciles accounts before the children even get up. Before choosing a tool, ask a few practical questions. Can I understand it without watching a 90-minute tutorial? Can I see my plan and my actual spending? Can I adjust it easily when life changes? Can I export or keep a copy of my information? Do I understand how my financial data is being handled? Am I comfortable with the security and privacy of the system? And most important, am I realistically willing to use this at least a few times a month? For me personally, I've tried them all. Paper budgets, the envelope system, different apps and websites, spreadsheets, you name it, I've tried it. What I've settled on is that for me, I love a customized Google Sheet. I built a system that does everything I need a budget to do. It integrates goals, it manages my cash, it clearly identifies my spending patterns, and helps me take control of my spending in about 40 minutes a month, once a month. I know it can be quicker with some apps or websites because they automatically customize, but I found 2 things that I don't like about that. First, I quickly became detached from my spending because I wasn't watching every transaction. Automation can make budgeting easier, it's true, but don't automate yourself out of awareness. If the app categorizes everything while you never look at it, then it's not really a helpful budgeting habit. That's just a very organized stranger observing your spending. When I physically see it on my Google Sheet, even if I only spend 10 seconds with it, my brain takes note. It says, it's a lot of trips to Target this month. That's enough for me to be more aware of it going forward. Second, even though the data came through and it was categorized for me, I still had to spend 15 to 20 minutes fixing transactions that were put in the wrong categories or dealing with a credit card that for some reason wouldn't download with my app that month. It got way too frustrating for me, especially after figuring out how to do it so easily on a Google Sheet. 2 more reasons that I personally prefer Google Sheets. 1, I don't like giving third-party companies my financial company online access information, my user IDs and my passwords. There's just way too many data breaches out there. I like to keep that information to as few parties as possible. And 2, I own my data. No one can mine it and sell it to other companies. If the company disappears, like Mint.com did, which used to be one of the biggest free budgeting tools out there, I used it myself, I won't lose all the hard work that I did in setting up my budget and all the historical data. Now, could Google technically go out of business and I lose my spreadsheet budget? Technically, yes, but I feel like the odds are much better that Google Sheets will survive, or I will be able to transfer that data to a competitor's spreadsheet system like Microsoft Excel or whatever else exists at that time. I think it's more likely that I would have options if I woke up one day and the company that owns my budgeting app is just gone. The spreadsheet gives me a little bit more freedom. Okay, moving on to budgeting mistake number 5. You build an all pain, no pleasure budget. This is the financial version of deciding that starting Monday, you will eat only boiled chicken and sadness. You cut restaurants, coffee, travel, clothing, entertainment, gifts, hobbies, anything else that makes your life enjoyable out. You tell yourself it's only temporary. You're going to be extremely disciplined for 6 months and emerge debt-free, fully funded, and possibly no longer speaking to anybody in your household. Deprivation can create a short burst of progress, but it really creates a life that you can sustain. It's almost always a one-way ticket to failure. When every purchase feels forbidden, the budget becomes the enemy. Then one hard day comes along, the pressure valve blows, and you spend more than you would have if you had simply planned for some enjoyment in the first place. Now you have the spending and the guilt, which is a delightful 2-for-1 special. Remember, what we're really trying to do here is build a habit. We're not trying some painful quick fix. A good budget does not cut out everything that you love. It protects the things you love most by cutting back on the things you barely care about. A good budget should be more focused on how do we say yes to the things that matter most to you while cutting back on those things that matter a whole lot less or maybe not even at all. That distinction truly matters. For example, maybe travel is one of the best parts of your life. Great. Put travel in your budget. Maybe you couldn't care less about clothing, but you have packages arriving every week because shopping has become something that you do when you're bored or stressed. That is where the opportunity is. Maybe eating out with friends gives you connection and happiness, but the random takeout you order because nobody planned dinner is expensive and it's not even particularly good. Those are both restaurant spending, but they are not providing the same value to you. Pick 2 or 3 areas that genuinely make your life better and protect them on purpose. Then look for spending that's automatic, forgotten, impulsive, or adding very little value. Budgeting is not about removing joy. It's about getting more life from the money you already spend. Budgeting mistake number 6. You create the household budget alone and present it like new federal legislation. You spend 3 hours working through the numbers, you identify the problems, you make a beautiful plan, but then your partner walks into the kitchen and you say, "Good news, I fixed our finances. Here are the new rules." This conversation tends not to produce the gratitude you imagined you were going to get. If 2 people are earning, spending, saving, or sharing responsibility for a household, one person cannot be the budget police, while everyone else becomes increasingly creative about avoiding those checkpoints. Even if your numbers are completely reasonable, people resist plans they had no part in making. A budget handed down from one partner to the other can feel like control, judgment, or punishment, especially if you have different money histories. One person may feel safe when money is saved, but the other may feel safe when the refrigerator is full, or the children have what they need, or life includes some enjoyment. One may want every single number tracked, the other may interpret that as being watched over. Neither person is necessarily careless. They may be trying to create safety in completely different ways. Start with the goals conversation, not a spending interrogation. Ask, what do we want our life to look like? What would make money feel less stressful? What are the 3 things we most want to accomplish in the next year? What do each of us want to be able to spend money on without guilt or permission? Once you have a shared destination, the numbers stop feeling like one person's rules. You're deciding together how to get somewhere that you both want to go. And if one person wants nothing to do with the details, that doesn't mean that the other person should carry the entire mental load in silence. You can divide the work, but both people need basic visibility. Nobody should wake up one day and discover that the household retirement strategy was, "I thought you were handling it." And don't forget to include the kids in the budgeting discussion to the extent that it's appropriate for them based on their age and their abilities and how much information you feel comfortable sharing. Modeling healthy financial habits like open and honest communication, budgeting, goal setting, it's an incredibly strong gift to give your children. So the next time you're meal planning, talk to your kids about why you're doing that. Not just to save time and be healthy, but because meal planning is an incredibly strong way to save money. Give them a budget and have them try to plan a few family meals with it. Help them understand how much everything costs in terms of how many hours someone would need to work to bring home after tax the money to pay for those things. All of these are lifelong lessons that kids truly need to learn. Budgeting mistake number 7. You treat one bad decision as proof that the whole budgeting idea is a failure. Let's say you plan to spend $150 eating out. It's the 12th of the month, but you've already spent $190. Your brain says, well, we blew the restaurant budget. This month is a disaster. Then, because the month is apparently beyond repair, you keep spending and you promise to start fresh on the 1st of the next month. But then that comes and you never quite get around to doing it. This is like dropping your phone and deciding that, well, I cracked the screen, might as well drive the car over it. One category went over. That's the entire problem right now. It doesn't need a sequel. You don't need to make it bigger. All or nothing thinking turns a small miss into full abandonment of this system. And it's especially dangerous for high achievers because people who expect themselves to do things well all the time, they often have a hard time continuing once they can't do them perfectly. But a budget that only works when nothing unexpected happens isn't a budget, it's just wishful thinking. You're going to overspend sometimes. You will forget an expense. You will underestimate something. You will have a week when convenience matters more than your budget because maybe the whole family's sick or work is crazy or you simply don't have the energy to cook 7 dinners that week from scratch. When that happens, ask 3 questions. What happened? Is it likely to happen again? What small adjustment can I make now? Maybe you move $40 from entertainment. Maybe you reduce restaurant spending for the rest of the month. Maybe you realize that the restaurant target was unrealistic and you revise it for next month. Maybe you decide the spending was worth it and make a conscious trade-off somewhere else. Reset at the next decision, not next Monday, not next month or next year, that next decision. One purchase cannot ruin your financial plan. The story you tell yourself after it can. Budgeting mistake number 8, you call predictable expenses surprises. Christmas is on December 25th every year. It's remarkably consistent. Car needs tires. The dog will go to the vet. Your children will outgrow their clothing. Usually 6 minutes after you bought the shoes or clothing it is. The house will require repairs because houses are basically very large boxes that constantly invent new ways to ask you for money. These expenses are irregular, but most of them are truly not unexpected. If your budget only includes monthly bills, every non-monthly expense is going to feel like an emergency. Then you use the emergency fund or the credit card and feel as though your budget failed and then you start over. But the budget didn't fail. It was missing half of real life. This is why we have people create an annualized target budget. It's pretty easy and it makes a huge difference. Go through the last couple of months of statements and look for expenses that did not happen every month. Holidays, birthdays, annual subscriptions, insurance premiums, school activities, sports fees, summer camps, vacations, car repairs, home maintenance, medical deductibles, whatever it may be. Add up what you spent in each area, divide by 12, and begin setting aside a monthly amount. These are often called sinking funds, and I know the name sounds as though your money is boarding the Titanic, but the idea is simple. Save a little at a time for an expense you know is coming. If you spend about $1,200 on the holidays, set aside $100 a month. If car repairs average $1,800 a year for you, build $150 a month into your budget. You may not predict the exact repair or the exact date, but you can predict that owning a car will continue to cost more than gas and good intentions. And keep true emergencies separate. A holiday is not an emergency. An annual insurance bill is not an emergency. Tires wearing out after 50,000 miles are not an emergency. An emergency is a genuine, urgent expense you could not reasonably predict. When you stop treating regular life as a series of financial ambushes, your budget becomes much more stable. Now, budget mistake number 9. You assume earning more money is the real fix for your financial problems. So you don't really try hard to build a budgeting habit. Don't get me wrong. More income can absolutely help you. I'm never going to pretend that somebody can breathing exercise their way out of an income that doesn't cover their basic needs. Sometimes the math truly doesn't work, and the answer has to include earning more, or lowering a major fixed cost, or getting some outside support, or some combination of those things. But income and money management are different problems. More money solves an income shortage. It does not automatically solve avoidance, emotional spending, lack of planning, lifestyle creep, or the belief that you deserve a reward every time work is difficult. If every raise gets absorbed into a bigger car payment, more subscriptions, more takeout, nicer vacations, and a house with 3 additional rooms that now need furniture to fill, the income changed, but the spending pattern did not. Money tends to amplify the system already in place. Think of pouring more water into a bucket. If the bucket is solid, more water fills it faster. But if the bucket has holes, more water just gives you a more dramatic leak. Now, I saw this repeatedly in my career. Some people earned ordinary incomes, they built simple habits, and they increased their savings every time their income rose. And then they quietly accumulated significant wealth. Other people earned extraordinary incomes, but raised the cost of their life just as quickly. From the outside, they looked wealthy. But inside the numbers, there was no margin. Every dollar had already been promised as something. The danger is that higher income can hide weak systems for a long time. You can out-earn the consequences until the moment you cannot, until there's a layoff, an illness, a divorce, a business slowdown, or simply the realization that you cannot keep working at this pace forever. So yes, work on increasing your income, negotiate, build skills, apply for a better job, start the business if that's right for you. But while you do that, build a system that can keep some of that increase. Decide in advance what will happen when more money comes in. Maybe 50% of every raise goes towards retirement or another goal that you're saving for, or 30% improves your current life and 20% goes towards something fun. The exact percentages are yours to manipulate. The important part is making the decision before the new income quietly disappears into a more expensive version of your normal. If you can't manage $100 perfectly, that doesn't mean that you don't deserve $1,000, but it does mean that $1,000 will not teach you the habits you keep postponing. Budgeting mistake number 10. You make the system so difficult that you cannot repeat it. This is where a lot of smart, capable people get stuck. They build a budgeting system as though they are preparing it for review by a congressional committee. Every transaction must be categorized perfectly. Every account reconciled. Every receipt and every penny accounted for. Every number perfectly current. But then life gets busy. You miss 2 weeks and catching up feels like returning from a vacation to 4,000 emails in your inbox. You avoid it. And the longer you avoid it, the bigger the job becomes. Eventually, the spreadsheet hasn't been opened for months. Your budgeting system should be simple enough to maintain during a normal, messy week, not just during the rare week when everybody's healthy, the laundry's done, and nobody needs anything from you. That means deciding what information you truly need and how often you need it. For many people, a 10 to 15 minute weekly check-in is enough. Look at your account balances, review some recent transactions, check the categories most likely to run over and see how you're doing. Look ahead at what's coming in the next 7 days. Maybe make 1 or 2 adjustments. Then do a slightly longer monthly reset. Compare your planned and actual spending. Refill or adjust your categories if you need to. Move money towards goals. Check the irregular expenses that are going to come in next month and decide what needs attention. That's it. You don't need to hold a shareholder meeting with yourself every week. Automate the things that should happen consistently. Bills, savings, retirement contributions, and transfers into those sinking funds we talked about earlier. Keep a small buffer in the checking account so that a bill arriving a day earlier than expected doesn't create a 5-alarm fire. Use fewer categories if that helps you see the big picture. Add detail only when it helps you change a decision. And create a minimum version of the habit for difficult weeks. If you can't do the full check-in, open the accounts, check the balances, and look for anything urgent. 5 minutes. That's all you need to keep that relationship and that habit alive. Skipping it until you have enough time for the right version is how 5 minutes becomes 5 months. Now, we tend to think successful people have more discipline. Usually, they have fewer decisions to make and the systems that are easier to repeat. Simple systems build healthy habits, and honestly, that is the secret to success. Your budget doesn't need to be impressive. It needs to still be operating 6 months from now. So let's bring all 10 mistakes together. Don't build a budget for a spreadsheet. Build it for the person making the real decisions. With all of your history, emotions, priorities, patterns, all of that considered. Don't begin at the most advanced level because you think making the system harder proves that you are serious about this. Start where your brain is, where you are, and build the skill. Use a budget that looks forward, not just a tool that gives you an autopsy of last month's spending. Choose a system that you understand, trust, and will actually use. Leave room in your budget for joy because a life with no enjoyment is nobody's financial goal. If you share a household, build the plan together. Expect imperfect months and learn how to adjust without abandoning everything. Plan for the irregular expenses that are part of normal life. Increase your income, but build the habits that allow you to keep more of it. And make the whole system simple enough to repeat when life is busy, because life is always busy. If you only do one thing after this episode, do this. Ask yourself, what repeatedly causes your budgeting habit to fall apart? Not where did I overspend? Go deeper. What happened right before I stopped using the system? Did it become too time-consuming? Did one mistake make you feel like a failure? Did your partner never agree to the plan? Did an unexpected expense show up that was actually fairly predictable? Did you cut out so much joy that you eventually rebelled against your own rules? Did you build a plan around the person you thought you should be instead of the person you actually are? That answer will tell you much more than another lecture about your coffee spending ever could. And if the beliefs underneath your decisions are the part you have never examined, don't forget to download the free money belief audit tool in the description below. It's a simple place to start seeing the rules that your brain may be following without your permission. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep building the life you actually want.